All right, so if you ever like see one of those huge trucks on the highway and like wondered what it takes to make sure something that big can even like drive safely?
Yeah.
Today we're kind of doing a deep dive into the world of combination vehicle inspections and like how crazy detailed they are.
Yeah. It's pretty
Get
interesting.
ready for some I guess some serious aha moments because this goes way beyond just like kicking the tires, you know?
Yeah, for sure. When you have something that big and complicated,
Mhm.
it's not just a quick look over, you know?
Exactly. And we've got excerpts here from like a driver manual.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, this thing is like the Bible for anyone who's even thinking about driving one of these rigs.
Yeah, definitely.
And like the very first thing they hit you with is how important the walk around is.
Right.
It's like
Right.
they want you to get up close and personal with every single inch of that truck.
Yeah, you got to know what you're working with.
Yeah, and that's where the whole combination part comes in, right?
Yeah.
They go into crazy detail about the connection points,
Yeah.
like the stuff that literally hooks the truck and trailer together.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize just how much engineering goes into like keeping those two things working as one.
Yeah, for sure. And a good example of that is the fifth wheel.
Now that name always makes me think of like some spaceship or something,
Right.
like from Star Trek or something.
Yeah, it sounds like it should be, but it's actually the thing that's holding most of the weight there.
Oh, wow. So it's like the heart of the connection.
Exactly.
So I guess it's no surprise then that the manual spends so much time on the fifth wheel.
Oh, yeah. They want you to look over every single part of it, making sure it's like totally secure.
Like,
Checking if there are any parts missing, is there enough grease?
okay,
And even checking this thing called the glide plate.
glide plate. Is that something you'd find on like a snowboard or something?
Well, in a way, it kind of does the same thing. Like, think about all that force every time the truck turns.
Right.
All that weight is pushing and pulling on those parts, and the glide plate is there to, like, reduce all that friction so it moves smoothly.
Oh, so it's like a shock absorber for the connection.
Exactly. It keeps those turns from turning into, like, a disaster.
I can imagine.
And speaking of connections, they also talk about the locking jaws.
Locking jaws sounds kind of scary.
Well, they're important. They keep the truck and trailer from coming apart.
That's good.
And the manual says you have to check for like visible space between the parts of the fifth wheel.
So like if you could see any daylight, you've got a problem.
Exactly. It's all about the details with these things.
Wow, most people would never even think about that stuff.
I know, right? But it matters,
And it's not just the big parts either.
right?
They go on and on about the air lines and electrical lines between the truck and the trailer.
Yeah, those are super important too.
It's like they're worried about every single wire and hose.
Yeah, because they're the lifelines for the whole system.
It's crazy they even tell you to check for slack in the airlines.
Oh, yeah, that slack is important. It lets the truck and trailer move a little bit on turns.
Oh, wow. So it's like a little wiggle room?
Yeah, exactly. It keeps things from breaking or coming undone.
So it's all about planning ahead for things that could go wrong.
Right, and this manual does a great job of pointing those things out.
And speaking of things that could go wrong, let's talk about air brakes, because that's where things get interesting.
Yeah, air brakes are a whole other thing compared to regular cars.
All right, so get this. They tell you to listen for escaping air.
Yeah.
Is that like some secret mechanic trick I don't know about?
Well, kind of. You can tell a lot by listening to how the air is flowing.
Oh.
You can tell if it's going to all the trailers the right way.
Right, because we're not just stopping one car here. We're talking about a whole train on wheels.
Exactly.
So it's like you're listening for like a whole orchestra of hisses and stuff to make sure those brakes are working together.
Exactly. And if they don't, you get what they call a jackknife. With something that big, that's the last thing you want.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying. It's amazing how this manual takes something we do every day, like hitting the brakes, and it's like a whole other
Fair.
world.
It really is. And there's more to it than just the air brakes, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they're also the service brakes.
So those are the ones you use like for normal stopping?
Exactly. And the manual goes into a lot of detail about checking those too.
Okay.
They want you to use the hand control or the trolley valve to make sure the trailer brakes work separately from the truck.
Oh, wow. So it's like a double check to make sure the trailers aren't just along to the ride.
Exactly. They have to do their part in stopping safely.
I like it. And then there's the emergency brake system, right?
Yeah.
Another thing you got to check.
Absolutely. Another crucial layer of safety for these vehicles.
So what do they say about that in the manual?
Well, they really stress the importance of like pretending the trailer's air supply is gone.
Wait, you're driving down the road and you just yank the trailer's parking brake?
No, not exactly. They have a safer way to do it.
Oh, okay, good.
They tell you to use the tractor protection valve to test it out.
We haven't talked about that valve yet. What is that all about?
Oh, it's important. It's like your backup plan if there's an air leak.
Okay.
So if something happens and the air starts leaking out, This valve kicks in and stops the truck from losing all its air.
So basically, it's like the last line of defense to keep the whole thing from going crazy.
Exactly. You got it.
Wow. Talk about taking safety seriously. And they make you practice this, too.
Yeah, they want you to be ready for anything.
This manual is intense, I have to say.
It's a lot to take in, but it's all important stuff.
It really makes you realize that it's not just on the driver to be safe. It's like every part of this thing has to work perfectly.
Absolutely. It's a team effort for sure.
And with all this talk about self-driving trucks these days, it makes you wonder what's going to happen with all this inspection stuff.
That's a good question. I wonder if AI will be listening for air leaks.
Right, or will it know if a pin is missing or a wire is messed up?
It's hard to say, but one thing's for sure, safety is always going to be the most important thing.
True. It is kind of like looking into the future and wondering what's going to happen.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, but knowing this stuff now is a good place to start.
It's like we started with this huge truck and ended up talking about like the tiniest little sounds and stuff.
Oh, right? It's crazy how much detail goes into these things.
It really makes you appreciate the people who build these trucks and the ones who drive them.
For sure, it's a whole other level of skill and responsibility.
And the crazy thing is, we've only scratched the surface here.
Oh, yeah, this manual goes so much deeper.
Like, what else is in there?
Let me tell you, they talk about everything from tire pressure to how to tie down the cargo safely.
Wow, it's like a whole university course on truck safety?
Pretty much, and it shows how important it is to keep learning.
Definitely.
Because technology changes, rules change, you gotta stay ahead of the game.
You know, before we started this, I have to admit, I didn't think much about those trucks on the highway.
Yeah.
But now I see them totally differently.
I know what you mean. It's like you've been let in on a secret or something.
Totally. And it makes you realize that even the most ordinary things can be super interesting once you start digging.
Exactly. Sometimes the best stories are the ones hiding in plain sight.
Well said. All right, everyone, it's another deep dive in the books. Hope you enjoyed learning about combination vehicle inspections. And until next time, keep those wheels turning and stay curious.